I do agree with you. Now, what comes along with a gritty franchise is usually a gritty fan base, and I want to move on to fan reaction. So, you texted me on Saturday as the Texas Longhorns were beating the Alabama Crimson Tide in Tuscaloosa. We previewed that game on College Kickoff Eve. We picked it for crunch time, and we'll get into that in a bit. But Texas played a really good game. Alabama did not look very good. And yet, on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now, Texas fans were calling for Arch Manning, despite the fact that Quinn Ewers had an amazing game. By all standards, just about every measurable standard, Quinn Ewers had a great game, and Texas won the game that they aren't known for winning lately. And you were really pissed about delusional fans and all that. So I want to give you the floor to rail on not only those people, but anybody else in any other fan base that you deem worthy of this rant.
Now, I don't want to single out the Texas Longhorn fan base because they are certainly not the only ones. This exists with every team in every sport across the board. And it just blows me away. And I don't know why I'm so surprised by it or so affected by it. It's just so absurd, some of the things that people say. Yeah, there were people just pining for Arch Manning to come into that game, that he was gonna, save them and lead them to victory. Listen, I'm the biggest pro Manning family person there is, as much as anybody else. I hope Arch Manning's very successful. I think he's a fine football player, and he will be successful. But if you think that Arch Manning was ready to be out there on that field Saturday night in Tuscaloosa against Nick Saban, you are an idiot. Because, and as a coach, as a program, you would not be putting that kid in a position to be successful in any way, shape, or form at all whatsoever. That would be setting him up for failure because, like I already said, he is not ready for that moment. I just don't know why people think that. I mean, this kid, and yes, there are freshman quarterbacks that come in and they are successful. Dante Moore is doing it at UCLA. There's a couple others out there too. He has the privilege. It's a privilege. He has the privilege to sit this year, take everything in, learn the system, learn the college game, learn the speed of the college game, while they have a very capable, good to great quarterback in Quinn Ewers that's doing a fine job. Again, like I said, it's not just Texas, right? I'm a Notre Dame fan. I during the games on Saturdays, like the Notre Dame Twitter, Facebook, whatever, message boards, it's just they're ready to, like, at the first series, the other team gets a first down, they're ready to fire the defensive coordinator. I mean, it's just so reactionary. It's absurd. And if you go into X during any game and just type in the name of a coach, one of the coaches, and there will be people calling for that coach to be fired for some crazy reason because of one single play call or one score that was given up. Part of that is what makes being a fan fun. I get that. But these people that are saying this on these public forums, like, they believe this stuff. They believe what they're saying. They believe with full conviction that what they're saying is the absolute truth. And that's what scares me the most.
It's not uncommon to see that, but I guess I would ask you, having watched half of the Texas game, like what exactly were they seeing that didn't give them confidence that they would win? And by the way, I just want to mention that these same fans who are calling for Arch Manning are also the same ones that are insufferable after this win. All about the Longhorns are back. We're going to the college football playoff, but yet they're calling for their quarterback. You see this all the time. I think that it's okay if you're a fan and you're watching what's on the field and you have a good enough sample size to say, I think a change could be made. Kind of like how Virginia Tech switched to Hendon Hooker, and I thought, okay, it's time to make this change. And then they decided that they were going to let him go to Tennessee. And the fans were like, why did they do that? Why wouldn't you put him back in? To me, when you have a sample of good things, it's like, hey, let's bring this guy in. Arch Manning hasn't played it down for them. He hasn't played it down for anybody. As a matter of fact, he's just collecting really, really big fat NIL checks right now. And he's going to get that playing time. But as you pointed out, like, why do people think, like, after two series, okay, we're not up 14-0. This is a failure. We need to bail on this guy. That's not football analysis. That's delusional fan behavior. And these are the people that are coming after us because they tell us that we don't know anything, which it's like, you don't know anything either.
Sure, and it happens, what people seem to forget is these teams aren't out there playing against air. right? They're playing against highly skilled opponents, highly skilled coaches who also can do a good job. And just because, there was a little tough sledding early for Texas offensively here and there, but they figured things out. There were some mistakes that were made, but that's going to happen because you're playing against one of the best teams in the country, at least historically. We'll see if they are that this year. But those guys are playing really, really hard. They make good plays too. Their coaches make good calls too. But at the end of the day, the better team will prevail. The team that makes more plays, the team that puts the coaches who put their players in better positions to be successful will ultimately prevail. And that's what happened. It's a similar thing to what happened during the Notre Dame game. Notre Dame came out first couple series, 3 and out. And like people are losing their minds. And it's like, it's the same thing that happened when they played Tennessee State. And it's the same thing that happened when they played Navy. And it's going to be the same thing that happens all year because whenever someone plays Notre Dame, they're like, this is our shot, right? Because, they're going to come out like Notre Dame's never going to catch somebody on a bad day. They're always going to get everybody's best shot. And teams come out fired up to knock off Notre Dame. They come out of the gates screaming, man. And that's what's happened in every single game. But as things settle in, Notre Dame has prevailed because on all cases thus far, they've been the better team, the better coach team, the better, the more talented team. But people lose their minds. Like they think that because, hey, the NC State defense just did a really good job. They have a very good coordinator that schemed really well to stop the things that Notre Dame does. But Notre Dame had a plan to account for that eventually, but they have to set things up and people just don't get it. Discrediting these opponents and these coaches too much when you react this way about your own team in these situations. And that's what people don't understand. And even to take it to the NFL, I was in the car Sunday morning and, being in Central Illinois, I get AM radio out of Chicago, 670 the score, right? And they're just Bears homers like crazy. They were going on about, they were talking about the spread. Like the Bears were like a 1.5 point favorite, I think, at kickoff. And the one guy's like, I just don't understand. Like, I do not understand how the odds makers could look at this game and look at these two rosters and to have the Bears as only a 1 point favorite. I mean, they were literally just shocked, like, and then look what happened, right? And it's like, what do you know that makes you believe that that's the case? And I don't know. I mean, it's again, part of it's a new season, it's hope, whatnot, but the overreaction during games drives me bananas. But at the same time, it's like a guilty pleasure. I like love seeking it out.
It's also delusional, right? It doesn't make any sense. And there is something fun to being passionate about the team that you're watching or the game that you're watching. I'm not saying that people shouldn't be, but at the same time, this overreaction business is usually reserved for like the first week of the season or the first series. Like I joke about my dad how if the Patriots went 3 and out in a game, he'd be like, well, they're going to lose. Like that would be the first thing that he would say. And like it almost became his shtick. That was just sort of what he was. And he joked about how he's like, I make the team go through negative reinforcement, not positive reinforcement. So like, okay, fine, right? He knows who he is and all that kind of stuff. But my dad is also was not calling for Brady to be benched after one series or one game even. Things happen and good teams lose all the time and good teams win all the time. Texas ended up winning the game. It's 4 quarters. It's an entire season. You got to let these things play out. And it's just crazy to me to think that these people think that they know so much. Like those guys on Bears radio. This is a good example of what I was talking about with you about credential to say what or credential to know. You don't know anything. These people are getting paid to go out there and say stuff like, I can't believe the Bears are only a 1.5 point favorite, only to lose by 20 points at home. So like, they don't know anything either. They're just as delusional as the rest of us. But can we be a little bit more reserved in our delusion? Can we keep it off of social media and maybe know a damn thing or two before you say something? Just saying.
And we've all been there. We've all spoken about things and spoken in a very passionate and empowered way when we haven't known everything, right? It happens. Like I've done it many times. And I make a strong effort to not do that because it is annoying when someone really takes a strong stance about something and they're so off base. Root for your team. Be passionate about your team, but be realistic about your team at the same time. Understand the big picture a little bit. And I get Texas being excited about that game. It was a great win for them. But at the end of the day, that game wasn't going to make or break either one of those teams' seasons. Because if Alabama goes 11-1 and wins the SEC, guess what? They're still going to be in the college football playoff. And if Texas were to lose and they win 11-1 and win the Big 12, most likely still be in the college football playoffs. So it all it does now is just make Alabama's got to be perfect from here on out, right? That it puts them in that situation. I mean, I don't know, man. Like some people just need to be mad about something or fired up about something, I guess. And I get that, like, that's maybe the fun part about it. It's a distraction from the day-to-day BS that you deal with and getting cranked up about Arch Manning not coming out there and on the white horse and leading the Longhorns to victory. It's got you all upset.
But you know that if Arch Manning was out there, that they would call for Quinn Ewers to come back in when Arch Manning looked like crap. So you cannot appease these people in any way.
No, not at all. Not one bit.